I mean, it is who I am. A lot of people who have known me here, I've lived in this valley since the mid-70s. And I think one of the things you have to understand is where you are. Are there a lot of liberals here? No. But we're getting more and more moderate to liberal all the time as people move in, as the nature of the valley changes. But I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my skin. I certainly, being a good liberal, understand that people have a right to their own opinion, and I respect that. But am I comfortable with my beliefs? Absolutely.
And Tom?
Well, the thing that scared me is I saw that bear come out there, and the way the markets have been lately, I thought it was really
that kind of bear. How do you feel about being called a right winger?
Actually, if you really got to know me, you'd find I wasn't so right-wing on every subject as Joe knows. But I try to convey the positions honestly from what I believe a Republican's point of view is today. I am a conservative, and there is a difference between being a Republican and being a conservative. In fact,
More and more, it seems.
Yes, and you know, there have been occasions where Ronald Reagan said he became a Republican because the Democratic Party left him. Over the last couple of years, I would say in many ways I felt that the Republican Party has abandoned the conservative message and the conservative movement, and has kind of left me out in the cold. I was very frustrated with the Republican leadership as far as what was done when we had the opportunity to do some things.
And Joe, would you say that a lot of Democrats feel that those of the, maybe what Howard Dean would have said is the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party feel that their party has moved too far to the right?
Well, that may have been true at one time, but Democrats are ecstatic today, given the political landscape. So,
to quote John Stewart, settle down.
I think Tom made a very valid point, and he followed up on your question, and that's this. The Republican Party, and it happens to both parties. It's happened to the Democratic Party in the past. It's the Republicans' turn this cycle. I think what you see happening is a lot of the intellectual, conservative base of the Republican Party are abandoning it, because for years they allowed and even encouraged what is known as the hard right wing of the party to do its legwork for them. And now they're kind of resisting that. You get people like even William Crystal, George Will, Christopher Buckley, David Brooks. These people are now pushing back, saying, this isn't our Republican Party. So it's cyclical. It happens to every party. It's part of the growing process. Right now it's happening to the Republicans.
Well, on that hand, let me turn to our next issue tonight, which is morality. Now, I mentioned that that half of the state propositions have to do with money. Most of the remaining initiatives concern government involvement in ethical or moral issues. The two most controversial have to do with abortion and same-sex marriage. My question, and Joe, I'll ask you to answer this one first, is where should we draw the line between personal choice and public interest?
Well, I think public interest can be defined on a couple of levels. You have the national security public interest, which is, I think, very important, and you have to look at it through a different prism. And then there are other public interests, like where's the road going to go? What's the zoning going to be? Those have a lesser importance. And when it comes to how people live their lives, the government interest better be very, very important before it can intrude on it. And personally, I haven't seen any government interest that's important enough to say that when two people want to love each other and be with each other, regardless of their sex, who is the government to tell them that they cannot live as man and wife? So I think there are certain situations, like national security, where the government interest trumps individual interests. But I can't think of too many on this ballot, and certainly Proposition 8 isn't one of them.
Proposition 8 is interesting in that it has been reintroduced as a constitutional amendment.
We should say, for the one person who's been asleep for the last several years, that that's the proposition that would prohibit same-sex marriage.
Correct, same-sex marriage. The people of California have voted on this once. I assume, and I have no idea, I've not seen polling on this, that if they felt that way once, they probably feel this way again. And it comes down to the definition of marriage as being between a man and a woman. Personally, I am probably more in Joe's camp on this. I have no interest in defeating love or relationships. The issue becomes one of tradition and one of personal values and one of definitions that I think remain important. And I think one of the most disturbing things I've seen is a very effective commercial on TV where the young person runs in and says, Mom, two men can marry each other. I'm old enough that bothers me. Do I want to see that as part of the code or the government code? No, I do not. Do I care what people actually do in their private lives? I certainly do not.
And the other hot button issue that I was referring to, the abortion issue, is actually a proposition that would require parental notification for minors seeking to terminate pregnancy.
You know, if something's going on with my child, I have always had a problem that the school nurse cannot give my child an aspirin but can direct my child for an abortion without my knowledge. I would like to know, I would like to believe that family is more important than government, and that if my child is 14 years old, I don't know that she would know how to seek out an illegal abortion, and I think that's a very weak argument, and I believe in parental notification.
Joe, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, in the perfect world, or I'm dating myself, but in the Donna Reed world, where every family had a mom and a dad, and they all sat around the dinner table, and everything was great, this probably wouldn't be the problem that it is today, but unfortunately we don't live in that kind of society. We have broken homes, we have broken kids, we have broken dysfunctional relationships, and a lot of the people who don't like this proposition are medical groups, doctors, who say, if you go down this road, you will take away all of the professional help that's available out there. And I happen to think if you're really a conservative, why is it that you won't let the family decide this on their own? So it's a touchy problem. There are a lot of different ways to go, but
So
I have a problem.
So if I heard you right, you have a problem with parental notification?
Yes.
So what is the family deciding on their own?
Well, if we lived in an ideal world, then the family could decide on their own, but we don't live in that kind of a world. So what do you do with the kid from a broken home who doesn't have the family to go to? Where does that kid go?
Who's going to be notified?
Well, that's what doctors are for. That's
No. My question is, if it requires parental notification and the kid has a broken home, who does the doctor notify?
Dad's in prison, mom is at a bar.
Okay, that's my point. I'm sure you will have cases where it will not be possible to notify anyone, so the child's right back where you want them to be anyway.
If I may quote our law school professors, even though I never graduated, isn't there a principle that says difficult cases make bad law?
And they always do. They always do.
And frankly, isn't that what we're talking about